Hello everyone, my name is Laura Ghianda and I am an Italian priestess that live in the northern mountains of Italy. For me, Goddess is not only the love of my life, she is also an imaginal matrix, an image that allows us to give shape to our reality. To give a concrete form to my quest, I coined a specific word which is Theasophy, and which refer to Goddess beyond any dualism. Today I'm so excited to show you a theasophical approach to the crone, one that challenges the way our culture gives meanings to our symbols. Now I invite you to close your eyes and just take a little moment to think about the first image of emotion that comes to mind when you hear these words. Discomfort, challenge, difficulty, death, and darkness. Did it? Great! I invite you just to trust me. This is only the beginning of our journey together. We will encounter so many other things which are much less intimidating. The crone is many things. She is wisdom. She is challenge. She is knowledge. She is magic. She is transformation. She is letting go of what no longer serves us. But, to transform, we must be willing to cut off the old branches. Let go of what is no longer useful for us. And step out of the comfort zone. These operations can be uneasy, challenging, sometimes painful, aren't they? And what symbolize the place of transformation, if not the darkness of the crone womb and the void of new beginning? She is the dark womb that welcomes us after the death and transforms us into new life. This has been symbolized in many ways, such as the practice of burying the dead in vases or in a fetal position inside caves that were the womb of the goddess herself. And they were there waiting to be born again. Can you feel this deep, fascinating, and also unsettling power of this image? Can you sense that the crone encompasses all of this, but doesn't stop there? Her darkness is not an end in itself. By its very own nature, it leads to the return. Therefore, she is both the challenge and the helping hand, the pain and the balm for healing. Can you feel it? Great! But now let's go back to the exercise I asked you to do at the beginning of this video, the one when you closed your eyes. Do you notice any gap between then and now? I want to ask you to think about how we talk about darkness in about every story we tell, and then how we incorporate these symbols into our language, convey what meaning, how we treat those characteristics of the crone when we are in our everyday lives, and how we commonly do it in a spiritual language. For example, she is the descent, the going down, the pose at the lowest point. But we are so afraid of the low that we constantly push us to rise, 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 and elevate, 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 elevate our vibration. We often speak about darkness like something that light must conquer. But isn't it revealing that we have an image of war between darkness and light within ourselves? Am I a bit uncomfortable and unpleasant at the moment? Am I a bit cronish? I know, but wait just a moment. This is why we in our Western culture associate the dark, the fear, the low, etc. with bad and evil, and our language reflects that. This imagery is not really Crone-friendly, and it perpetuates the negative association with all our qualities, preventing us to recognize them into our life. This gap exists because the old people who symbolized the Crone had a very different way to organize the reality compared to the one we have today. We are essentially trying to reconcile two very different mindsets, two very different way of thinking. However, the problems arises because the way we use to make sense to the reality comes from one of the most ancient, most patriarchal culture that existed, which is the one of the ancient Greece. A culture that has tamed the goddess as one would do with wild animals. I show you to the whiteboard the two systems of thought that are to be compared. I call this one the thought of airtight boxes. And this is the one that we still use today. This is the one that came from Greece and have a specific characteristic I want you to memorize. This is static, right? The second one, I would call it the Crone one, goddess one. Is a spiral-shaped thought, which can be symbolized by the circle. And the circle has a specific characteristic, this movement. These are just two different ways to organize the reality. These are just two different ways to create connection between what we caught in the reality. The Greek one put the light in a box and the dark or the darkness in the other box. They are airtight boxes. It means that you cannot be here and there at the same time. If you are here, you are the opposite of there. The characteristic of this way of thinking is that one of the box is considered better than the other. The only movement here is the war that is between the two boxes. The Greek thought was the one of the high, the word of the idea, the hyperoranium of the ideas, in opposition with the low, the word of senses, the word of the experience, the word of the so-called illusion, in opposition with the word of the pureness of the ideas. So if everything have to fit into one of the two boxes, where did they put the darkness? In the nice box or in the worse one? Obviously in the latter. And this is how, during the time, we learn to associate the darkness to negativity and the light to positivity, to something that is better than the other category. Every box has its own association. So we could make a list here of quality that fit in its specific box. But in the cyclical way of thinking, there can't be any separation between light and dark, because the circular dimension, put light here, dark here, here and here. The circular dimension ensures that unity is formed by both. Here we cannot say that good is light and bad is dark. We cannot even say that high is better and low is worse, because by doing this, we would prevent the circular movement from its flowing, its natural flowing. So instead of trying to match qualities like good and evil, like we would do with the airtight boxes thought, we can rather talk about balance and imbalance. Like my beloved teacher, Luciana Perkovic, that is a guest in the conference of this year, taught me is a pretty common way of thinking in the Siberian shamanism. But beware, not in the sense that balance is light and imbalance is the darkness. Otherwise, we apply exactly the same way of thinking of the airtight boxes. It's a pretty different understanding of the reality, and you will understand better if you follow my movement, the movement of my hands I'm about to do on the board. We must remember that their cycle is a unity itself. So I will refer to the concept of balance by flowing with the movement of the cycle, phase after phase, starting from the darkness and the slowly rising of the light, the middle point between dark and light, the maximum point of the light, and then the descent, till the point where light and darkness are balanced, and then again, till the death again. So balance is when every phase of the cycle proceeds in its flow. And this includes light, darkness, and everything that is in the between. Whereas imbalance is exactly in the thinking of the sealed boxes. Because seeing one of these characteristics like bad means blocking the flow, the movement of the unity. It is as I decide that this part of the circle, which is the dark one, the reign of the Crone, is bad. And the other part is good. It doesn't work. It simply doesn't work this way. In the reality, by preventing us to understand all of this like an healthy unity, bring us in balance. It is in the separation of each of these phases that we create imbalance. By isolating each of these phases from the unicum that is the circle, that we create imbalance. And that's why not the light itself is good and not the darkness itself is evil. The balance is when the right amount of light or the right amount of darkness or the right amount of the mix of the two must be in the specific position. So the right light is the one that is the perfect flowing light in this position, in this position, in this position, in this position, and so on. There could be too much light or too little light. This is unbalanced. Too much or too little compared with the right position of the movement of the dance between light and darkness. So here is a dance, not a war. Here is a war, not a dance. Obviously, the same runs for darkness. It's not the darkness itself that is evil. The unbalance of the darkness is when we have an excess or a deficiency of darkness. But excess or deficiency compared to what? Compared to the moment of the cycle we are in. And so, this is the reign of the crone. This. The crone is the descent. The crone is the pause in the maximum moment of the darkness. But the crone is also, by its very own nature, the beginning of the ascent. She is the maximum point of the void. She is the greatest darkness. But these are healthy phases of her nature, not something worse, not something evil, not something wrong, not something to escape from. In the hermetically sealed boxes, the darkness is danger and evil because there is no movement. But everything in our cycle is movement. Every cycle is movement, and the universe is a huge cycle itself. That's why I say Goddess is not a half of the universe. Goddess is in the cyclicity, and being the cyclicity is being the universe. The universe that everything contains. Are you ready to understand a little bit more? Here we are. In our cycle, every phase of the cycle contains within itself the characteristic of the perpetual movement. What does it mean? It means that the peak of light contains within itself the seed of the descent. And a middle point between the light and the darkness contain in itself the beginning or the darkest part of the circle, like in the equinoxes. And the peak of darkness contain within itself, by its very nature, the seed of the ascension. This is why the peak of the darkness is transformation, is the darkness of the womb itself, is the special place where everything new begins. We have now a darkness that is no longer the symbol of evil, but a fertile ground for newness and rebirth, like the seed in the darkness of the earth. In this way of thinking, you cannot separate the darkness into a stagnant compartment and deprive it to its dance toward the ascension. Because the darkness, when everything is flowing, is the seed of ascension by its own nature. Can you feel the difference from this way of thinking, the one who divides? Remember these two differences. The way of airtight boxes is static. They took, just as an abstraction, the peak of the light and the peak of the darkness, and put them in two boxes without considering all the rest and without considering the movement. Vice versa, on the other side, the peak of the light is nothing than a moment, just a little moment in the never-ending movement, and it lasts just a second. Same with every phase. The peak of the darkness is nothing but a little second, a moment in a never-ending movement that is made by thousands of different shades. Here it is. Thought creates reality. We cannot fully live the reality of the Crone by using this way of thinking, the airtight boxes thinking. To fully meet the Crone into our lives, we must reorganize the reality using more the circular way of thinking. And I'd like to help you, if you like to try, if you like to play this game with me, toward 6 points. Number 1 is very easy. Go outside and observe the nature and try to recognize the cyclicity and circular movement that characterize it. For example, every cycle has the same phases. You can observe the season, the phases of the moon, the sun, tides, the cycles into your very bodies, and this time notice how it is not necessary at all to see the alternation of the various phases as an alternation of good, evil, right and wrong, good or bad. We need a decolonization of our thought from the specific attribution of morality to everything that exists, nature, darkness included. Number 2, meditate on the idea of how every phase of the cycle has an important role and that no phases are inherently good or bad. Each phase has its challenges and opportunities, and our task is to navigate through these phases in a conscious and wise way. Number 3, focus on the many phases in the between light and darkness. There are not just light and darkness like it is here. Here you have only 2 boxes. One is light and the other is darkness. But it is not the case of every reality. Pay attention to that. And again, light and darkness are nothing different from just a phase within the continuous movement. Their climax lasts just for a second, maybe less. And here they have been extracted from its dance, extracted from their position and made into an abstract category, an abstraction, the world of idea that was far from the world of our own experience. But Goddess is not far from the world. She is the world herself, as our great beloved Sorrow said. Number 4, be open to change and transformation. Remember, every ending is also a new beginning because the movement is a cycle. And so every transformation brings new opportunities and challenge as well, of course. This is what Crone and her darkness is. Nothing to do with bad, evil, and negativity. Number 5, very important. Try not to correct other people's difficult feelings. Don't add to their weight by blowing on guilty feelings, such as don't be angry, or your vibration will lower, or don't be sad. If you are sad, you will attract more sadness. Someone may think that in good faith. These are useful tips, but in reality, by doing this, we are not applying the Crone's wisdom. We are escaping it. The only thing we can do here is to be witnesses, to validate any other's experience. Try to say, yes, you are angry. Yes, you are sad. I see you. I'm here. Let that person feel safe with you. Feel safer in the expression of the difficult emotion. We really don't have to do anything else. Number 6, I can give you some suggestions to approach the cyclical thinking through the language. For example, expressions like elevate have the implicit idea that the good is up and the bad is down. So why don't we replace it with expand? Expansion in every sacred direction. Instead of saying that light will conquer the darkness, which relies on a warlike metaphor, why not speak of dance, of passing the torch? And perhaps we may wish, may the darkness you are living now lead you by the hands toward your rise. Or may your descent be fruitful and gentle. What do you think about this? Or for example, instead of an evil person as a dark mind, why not an evil person has a turbid mind, leading society out of the darkness of poverty, leading society toward greater prosperity? Or again, the light of knowledge, we can turn it into the knowledge that illuminates, because there are so much knowledge in the darkness too. And my wish for you is, may the light never blind you. Thank you, dear. I don't want this talk to be forgotten as soon as it's over. I hope it can plant a little seed in the lives of those that are listening to me. If you are interested, would you like to spend some of your free time playing this game with me? A game when we explore ways to modify common phrases that identifies darkness as bad and light as good. Would you? Then, if you like, we could use the Facebook Goddess Participant group and share our revised expression there, because it is only together that we can crone up our lives. Hope to see you soon in person, maybe with my new book translated in English, who knows? See you and enjoy the rest of the conference.